Well, hello and good evening, everyone. It is truly my pleasure to welcome you all to the George Washington University and tonight's event presented in partnership with Politics and Prose bookstore. For years, GW's location in the heart of the nation's capital, our leadership in fields like health, public policy, law, and international affairs, and our unique partnership with Politics and Prose have created a remarkable only at GW convening power. Together, we have hosted conversations with former Secretary of State Hillary Rodham Clinton, TV host Rachel Maddow, actor and GW alumna Kerry Washington, and more recently, renowned presidential historian Doris Kearns Goodwin, author Malcolm Gladwell, and the most decorated U.S. woman in Olympic history, swimmer Katie Ledecky. This evening, some of you were there. This evening, we add a new chapter to our partnership with Politics and Prose as we host world-renowned culinary humanitarian José Andrés. We at GW are especially proud of our connection to Jose, who founded the GW Global Food Institute and who spoke at the university's 2014 commencement, the same year he received an honorary doctorate in public service from GW. For years, he has also taught a very popular course here titled World on a Plate. And I had the great privilege of visiting Jose's class and watching him interact with our students. He was as dynamic and thought-provoking in that setting as I know he will be here this evening. Jose is joining us tonight in conversation with radio journalist Guy Raz, a journalist, thought leader, and pioneer of podcasting. And I know this is going to be a terrific conversation. Jose and Guy, thank you for joining us tonight. It is a pleasure to welcome you to campus. Now, to introduce tonight's discussion, I would like to welcome co-owner of the Politics and Prose bookstore, Bradley Graham, to the stage.
Hi, everyone, and let me say first thanks to Ellen and to the staff here at GW for helping to make this event possible, and also thanks to all of you for supporting independent bookstores like P&P and by attending events like this one and by shopping with us. And how great to have Jose Andrés here. He's accomplished so much. A renowned chef, best-selling cookbook author, Emmy Award-winning television personality, educator, and acclaimed humanitarian. And what an amazing life story he has, which he recounts in his new book, Change the Recipe. Jose grew up in Spain and came to the United States in 1991 at age 21. Over the years, he's established 40 restaurants offering a range of culinary experiences and is often credited with pioneering Spanish tapas in the United States and with introducing Americans to both avant-garde and traditional Spanish cooking. His humanitarian efforts, meanwhile, have become legendary. Settling in the DC area, he got involved with DC Central Kitchen, joining the board and becoming chairman. In 2010, in Haiti, the food assistance he organized for earthquake survivors led him to create the World Central Kitchen, a nonprofit that has gone on to feed the needy in Ukraine, Gaza, and other troubled zones around the globe. On top of numerous Best Chef awards, Jose also has been honored for his relief work, receiving medals from both President Obama and President Biden. Plus, he somehow managed to find time to write a few cookbooks and 2 books about the work of the World Central Kitchen, and he's working on some more. Clearly, Jose is a force of nature, and in his lively new memoir, he tells stories from his remarkable life and the lessons that he's learned. From his mom, it was how to turn minimalist ingredients into delicious meals. From his dad, it was the importance of mastering the fire, meaning don't just control the heat when cooking, but be sure to master yourself. From an early restaurant mentor, Jose learned how to push boundaries and be inventive, and his humanitarian work has reinforced in him the belief that what the world really needs is not higher walls, but longer tables. Change the Recipe is a slim book, but one abundant with insights, wisdom, and inspiration for all of us. In conversation with Jose this evening, as Ellen mentioned, will be Guy Raz, who's a popular podcaster who got his start in broadcast journalism, working for NPR and CNN, and went on to create such successful podcasts as How I Built This, Wow in the World, and TED Radio Hour. Guy's also behind the celebrity interview podcast, The Great Creators, and the business podcast, Wisdom from the Top. Plus, he's co-founded 2 media companies and written the best-selling How I Built This, as well as several books for kids. Now, please join me in welcoming José Andrés and Guy Raz.
Hello, hello. We are not cooking.
Wow, what an incredible reception.
Yeah.
There
I
you
come here to see the flamenco festival. and here I am.
So much to talk about, and I can't wait to dive into this book and your life. This book is a memoir, but it's organized around a series of life lessons, and lessons that were hard-won, based on your own life experiences, which we will get to. But I want to start by asking about the genesis of this book, right? It's not a standard straight narrative. It's organized in a really, really fascinating way. Tell me about the format of the book. Tell me about the idea of this book.
Okay. This book has many reasons. On paper, I was supposed to put another cookbook out. But then, we wanted the book to be even better. And anyway, the publisher said, yeah, we can move the book 2026. And why you don't write, a book about whatever you want to write about?
Yeah.
And we did it very much in 30 days during summer. And the idea was one that, can I be writing like open letters to my daughters, like stories? Which at the end, it didn't really become that. Even it's certain stories there that you could argue is the main reason behind them. I don't know all of you, but probably you lost family members or friends, the grandpas, your father, your mother. And probably you are wondering about a lot of questions you have, where you have nobody to whom to ask anymore. Not even about important things, but even about goofy, non-important things. About a photo you saw, very old, black and white, and maybe you see there your mom laughing hard on the ground with her skirt upside, and you want somebody to tell you what happened there. And you have no one to tell you that story anymore. And so this book is a little bit of that. Maybe one day I'll write a real book. But I think I learned that we all have to be writing in a little book, handwritten, stories that you think are important to you, stories that maybe you never got ever the opportunity to tell because it was not the moment, but the stories that somebody will be so thankful you did. Because you'll make sure that nobody's in the dark about those stories. So that's the reason of this book. But if you don't like this answer, I have other reasons.
So many of your memories, not surprisingly, are connected to food. And these beautiful descriptions of your mother's croquetas or eating cherries from a tree when you were a child, or your uncle's, migas, or a tuna omelet on tomato bread drenched in olive oil. When do you remember as a kid? Because a lot of kids, they like food, they eat it. Yeah. Most of the time it's chicken fingers and, pizza. When do you remember as a kid being conscious of how special the food was that you were eating?
I mean, for the record, chicken fingers are great. But there are chicken fingers, and chicken fingers.
Yes.
My chicken fingers growing up, holy cow. They were so good. We were like, Mommy, we didn't call them fingers, but like, man, these nuggets. But yeah, I was I grew up outside Barcelona in a farming town. You could see Barcelona in the distance, but it was a farming town. And my mom, many of you know by now, but in case, my mom was a nurse, my father was a nurse, and they were able to buy this house outside this tiny town of 1,000 people. And really was great to grow up in this tiny town. Looked like a movie. We will go shopping, right, every morning for the bread. I don't know you, but, those pieces of bread, we don't call them baguettes in Spain. We call them la barra de medio, because it was half a pound, half a kilo baguette, if you want to call it. And they will over-toast the bread in the oven, like Mark Fustenberg does here, maybe the best bread maker in the world. And the tips, the corners of that baguette, oh my God. There's no way I will make it home without eating both sides. And the little cuts on top, that they are super crunchy. Very much when the baguette got my house, my wife was always very upset because it looked deconstructed. So yeah, those moments, I remember oh my God. Oh, the cherries, so my house was surrounded by cherries and peach trees. And I think that's why we fall in love, besides my wife, Patricia, with Washington, D.C., because in the first spring, I saw all those amazing cherry trees, not only here in D.C., but all across Maryland and Virginia. And all of a sudden, it's like I was traveling back to the place I came from. Yeah. So those cherry trees were great because we knew a few weeks later, cherries will be in the trees. And I'm not gonna lie to you that we will always be late for school because we will go into the trees, eat the cherries, coming back home, eat the cherries. Cherries we were eating all day long. The farmers were not too happy at times. But those moments, I remember them like it's yesterday. That's why every time I'm walking in the countryside, especially in fruit season, I was freaking out when one day my daughter comes back from school and tells me, Daddy, we went to the Billy Goat Trail. We ate the pawpaws. Now, I'm looking at my daughter, it's like, oh, what's a pawpaw? Yeah, the fruit in the Billy Goat Trail in the Potomac. What fruit? I didn't even know about pawpaws. Probably you didn't even know it's pawpaws. But again, this was almost like bringing those memories. Yeah. But then they were not happening in Spain, the country I grew up, but they were happening right here in the home, in the place that now I call home. Yeah. So our stories at the end seems it's a life that you keep living and living and living. Different places, but kind of same type of memories. And
even though your parents were great, they were both nurses, as you mentioned, but they were great cooks. You talk about your father building the fire for the paella, your mother's croquetas. Your dad kind of secretly wished that he had become a chef. That was his kind of secret ambition, and he, I guess, encouraged you to obviously pursue that. You were the oldest son. Were you attracted to that? Because you started culinary school as a young teenager.
Yeah. I was not doing very well at school even. Oh my God, I remember the days of learning how to program. You remember, I mean, what's the average here? You remember the Commodore 64 and the Amstrad?
Yep.
And BASIC. You remember that? Mm-hmm. I'm that guy too.
Yep.
I mean, oh my God, those moments, and creating our own games and the tapes to record whatever you program. Oh my God, and then the computer will eat the tape, and then you'll. Anyway, I mean, everything around me seems to eat because my computers keep eating my tape record. I mean, even my computers were hungry.
Yeah. So you were not going to be a computer programmer. You were going to do something.
But I was not doing very well in traditional school.
Right.
I don't know you, but my God, I mean, in America we have a lot of presidents, but in Spain, you know how many kings we had in the history of Spain? And they made you remember the names of every king? Like, why? No, what they did, but their names. It's like, why? Anyway, we have so many kings that you can mention any name with a number and nobody knows will be wrong. That's how many kings we ever had. But it's great, but traditional was not for me.
Yeah.
I will be more the guy that love to learn about biology, use scuba diving, right? Or being on the trees.
Yeah.
But my father realized that, and was a moment I was doing a lot of acting. I did a lot of plays. In my little town, we had this amazing group led by this guy, José Andrés. He was the director of a bank, but his passion was directing and theater. So we had this theater group in my school, in my town. Because when it's a little town and you are so very few of you, you have to do everything. I was not very good at football, the real football, the true football. But because they needed players, they put me on number 9, the striker. Not because I was a good striker, but because it was the only place I would not bother the flow of the game. I don't know where I was going with this, but I was going somewhere very interesting.
You knew that maybe cooking or culinary school.
And so, theater, I remember we wrote the script, the Oscar Wilde, The Ghost of Canterville. And I played the ghost. It was fascinating. And the last play I remember I did, even I never performed, because then I went to the military service. I did Alan on Equus of Peter Shaffer. So I really love theater. And was almost a moment of theater or cooking school. And I think, again, as you said, my father, his dream probably was being the cook himself, but it's like, can my son be the one? And anyway, I was cooking in school, and I don't regret it, because at the end of the day, life is like a theater performance anyway.
Yeah.
We're always performing. And here I am. This answers your question?
Yes. You mentioned going to the Navy. It was compulsory at the time. And you initially, you worked for an admiral in Cadiz and convinced him to let you go on this four-masted sailing ship, which was a journey that would take you to the United States for the first time. You saw the Statue of Liberty through the Verrazano Bridge.
It changed my life.
When you docked in New York City, you're 18, 19 years old, did you have a hunch that you would come back already then?
Any ICE official here? Or? So, because everything can be used against you, you know. And by the way, I think even people at Homeland and ICE, they're good people doing the work that they are mandated. But anyway, that's a joke. Anyway, we love you too. But I never ever thought about coming back to America, obviously. I mean, remember they asked you a question, do you have an intention to come? Do you have any communist thoughts? I'm like, what is communism? I didn't. Anyway, let's go back to the answer.
I mean, you see the Statue of Liberty through the
So
Verrazano Bridge.
I joined the military. I'm already cooking. I'm already working in some of the great restaurants in Barcelona. I'm not going to school because the school was a school with no kitchen, especially the first year because it was brand new. And I think that school invented virtual reality and artificial intelligence almost 40 years ago because we had no ingredients. We had no pots, we had no pans. So, you know, the chef, the teacher will say, let's make paella. Okay, paella. Light the paella pan, okay? Yeah, put the oil. The oil is burning. Like, what? It's all fake. So for me, it was more interesting going to restaurants. So yes, I was a young cook in summers working in places, learning a lot, working in ElBulli. I go to the military service. I am in the Navy, south of Spain. And they put me cooking for the admiral, and I'm like, no, give me a break. I'm in the Navy, and I'm gonna be in a house cooking, not even in a boat. So they told me that's it, and I couldn't complain. And I couldn't ask the admiral for anything else. So I never asked him.
Yeah.
I only told him, you love my cooking, right? Yeah, your wife loves my cooking, your daughters love my cooking. Yeah. And I began telling him, wouldn't it be nice if the sailors in the boats could experience the same? I'm good, English sucks, but I'm good with words somehow. After I told him this like 10 times, he obviously knew.
You wanted to go.
I wanted to go somewhere. And I wanted to go not to any boat. I remember the admiral rolling his eyes and saying, you want to choose the boat too? Like, well, I mean, if we have, not any different than chatting, from the Pentagon on Signal. So I go to this boat that I saw as a young boy in Barcelona, the training ship of the midshipmen of the Spanish Navy, 4-mast. I mean, like a movie. You know the movies? Mm-hmm. A movie. Like a movie.
4-masted sailboat.
300 people in the boat.
Wow.
And he granted me my wish. And 2 days before that ship training the midshipmen sail away, I was on the boat.
Yeah.
First time I saw the Canary Islands, first time, I never throw up so much in my life. On the first hour, everybody was throwing up, by the way. There you learn that you need to be throwing up with the wind in your favor so it doesn't end in your... This is life lessons, the University of Life.
Yes.
And I arrived to Ivory Coast, Abidjan. First time I got ketgenou, an amazing Ivory Coast dish, where it took a long time because you realize that those 4 children and the mother running behind a chicken like it was a Rocky Balboa movie training, that was your chicken. And that was fascinating, it was so good. Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. I spent all the money I had on caipirinhas and feijoa. Dominican Republic, Santo Domingo. Then I arrived Pensacola, the city of the 5 flags. One of the flags, the Spanish Castilian flag. Hey, I belong here. With permission, I realized with permission of the Native Americans, obviously, and maybe the Vikings too. We arrived 100 years before the British. Sorry. I like British people. I mean, richer The writer of the book is British, but you know what I mean. But where the Spanish people arrive is much better food. This is a fact. And fake news. Okay, I'm finishing the answer. My first soft-shell crab, the blue angels across the white beaches of Pensacola. I arrived in New York, Ellis Island, Lady Liberty, Verrazano Bridge. You know what is arriving to America? Up in the mast, 30, 40 meters. You looking nice, blue eyes, more hair than I have now. The wind blowing in your face, looking beautiful Manhattan. That night before we dock, I was looking at the sky. I was looking at the flag. I was looking at the sky. I was looking at the flag. I'm like, man, America is brilliant. The beautiful white stars on the beautiful blue dark sky. A place that you feel free, that everything is possible, that seems miracles and dreams happen, is what they put in their flag. I really looked like a moron when I found out the stars meant the States. I think my story is much, 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 much more poetic. And I dock on 30th Street, more or less.
Yeah.
You know what is for me? I just came from New York. I was 6 hours driving to get to this moment with you. And can you believe, like over 30 plus years later, I am opening Mercado Little Spain in Hudson Yards,
Right.
200 meters away from the first place I dock, arrive in New York. Obviously, it's a lot we need to improve in America and around in every country in the world. But dreams do exist, and dreams do happen, and it's good that we all share small or big dreams with everybody, because there is always the opportunity of hope that tomorrow something you dream about may be happening. It's not gonna be easy, it's not gonna happen fast, but if you never give up on those dreams, eventually we all achieve them sooner or later. And if it's not us, it'll be our children, or the children of our children.
Yeah.
That's why it's so important to always be very loud of sharing your dreams with everybody you know.
When you talk about Ferran Adrià, you got to work at ElBulli in the early days, late 80s, early 90s, before it became the most famous restaurant and probably the most consequential restaurant in history. And I'm going to quote from the book. You describe Ferran Adrià this way: it was like the spirit of Gaudi passed into Dali, and the spirit of Dali passed into Ferran Adrià.
Yep.
This is somebody who had such a profound impact on your life and really helped to shape the kind of chef you would become. Tell me about how important that period was.
Obviously, Ferran Adrià, I worked 2-3 summers there. There was a restaurant was only open a few months every year because the weather where the restaurant was impossible. It was a very tourist town.
Yeah.
And
they get these winds, right? These heavy winds.
The winds are called tramontana.
Yeah.
It's this kind of wind that penetrates within you.
Yeah.
It's a wind that talks to you, and you end talking to the wind. So La Tramontana I would say it was very important in my life too, because I end talking to the wind some nights, I think. Yeah, after a glass of wine or two, but. And I think that was the perfect place for a creative mind like Ferran. The restaurant was only the excuse for him to share what he did.
Yeah.
He will be the same math genius with restaurant or without restaurant. The restaurant is closed now, but now it's called ElBulli Foundation, and it's used a homage to creativity. And everybody can visit this foundation. It's like a museum. And if you want to understand creativity that is beyond food, you want to go to ElBulli, 2 hours north of Barcelona.
I think on that point, because you really bring this out in the book, this idea of creativity, what really struck me about your time in his kitchen was how much failure there was, how many attempts there were to try things that didn't work. He would throw gelatin and oil and it would just fizzle. You would grind down lobsters to make it into a flour, it didn't work. And I think that is where that creativity is coming from.
But those were things we didn't serve people, okay? You know, it's things, for example, I feel very guilty because one of their amazing creations is the liquid olives. Who had the liquid olive in one of my restaurants? So this is a spherification. It's only two types of cooking, people. It's good cooking and bad cooking. I mean, we can lie about bad cooking, but bad cooking is bad cooking. The Thanksgiving turkey that our mother or grandmother or father or grandfather or that is dry, that's how much you want to cover up. I mean, let's face it, dry turkey is the Watergate of modern culinary times. It's so much you can cover up with gravy.
Yes, right.
It's only so much. Okay, let's go back. The salted margarita. That is amazing. Those are simple ideas and techniques that come from the mind of Ferran Adrià. Ferran is one guy that one day said, we're putting all the books away. We're never going to be opening another book. And for many years, he didn't open another book. And those were the most amazing years in the life of modern creative cooking, not only for ElBulli, for Spain, but for the world. Thousands of chefs, they've been through those kitchens working 1 week, 1 month. And you can see right now that when you see the new Nordic cooking, the new American, it's chefs that came from that moment.
Mugaritz and
that's who Ferran was. But it was not only about the creativity, right? No. Ferran said, let's not settle for keep doing what the books of the past are telling us. Let's find on our own the reason of why we are going to do what we are going to do. Of sure, we need to honor tradition, but let's ask ourselves why, and is there a better way? And what happened was that at the same time was people like Harold McGee. If you don't have his book, you should buy it if you like cooking. Because Harold McGee is this amazing American scientist that in the 80s wrote the most fascinating physics-science culinary book in the history. You can buy mayonnaise already made, but you can make mayonnaise at home. And you can make mayonnaise because you know egg and oil, if you keep whisking, you may get emulsion that is stable. But if you read his book, you will learn why that emulsion is stable and what happens. Because you have the knowledge of why it happens, all of a sudden, you can start not using egg and start using other proteins. And all of a sudden, you don't need to be using olive oil or even any plant-based oil. All of a sudden, you can be using other oils. And all of a sudden, you can start expanding from that very simple knowledge that allows you to do so much more. At the end, I said at the beginning, it's only two types of cooking, the good one and the bad one. We all choose the good one, but with knowledge, the good one can be even better. When people say, but I don't like that molecular cooking, I don't like that scientific cooking, people, what do you think bread is?
Yeah.
What do you think beer is?
Yeah.
What do you think cheese is? We can eat it and enjoy it and don't know anything about it, or we can be learning about the malolactic fermentations that make the beauty of wine happen. If you understand that fermentation, actually you can be doing fermentations with every other fruit in the world. The know-how of learning about why things happen was probably one of the biggest learning teachings moment of Ferran Adrià. And beyond that, if Ferran was on the pharmaceutical industry, if Ferran was in the medicine business of probably by now will be no one more sickness.
Wow.
Because he was a giver. He never kept anything for himself. Everything he came up, he could be keeping all of us in the dark, but he's a guy that decided to share it. He made sure that every year in 1 or 2 conferences in Spain that became, chefs from around the world will come. Make sure that every year, every new invention, every new technique, he will share the technique with everybody.
Yeah.
It's very rare to find people like him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You eventually go to New York, were there for some time, eventually to San Diego, and then you got here to DC. And I think when you were coming to DC, people warned you, and this is in the early 90s, that this is a provincial town. This is a steakhouse kind of city. This is not a restaurant city. But you have a chapter in the book, it's a section called Look Closely at the Forest. And you write about how, from your perspective, there were a lot of things that people weren't noticing, that they were missing, even in the early 90s, about Washington, D.C., in the culinary scene. What did you notice at that time?
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I was thinking, I was about to go to Japan. I got an offer to be a cook in Tokyo, in a tapas restaurant. And then these guys were opening this Spanish restaurant in D.C. So it was Tokyo or Washington. And I came to Washington, and I was fascinated by the White House and Congress, don't tell me why. But I was. And I met these 2 guys, Roberto Alvarez and Rob Wilder. Roberto had a restaurant called Café Atlántico, and Rob Wilder had a restaurant called Austin Grill. And with an amazing person, an amazing chef, and Cashion, they were opening Jaleo. And they were looking for a young Spanish chef to help them. And I was the guy. I love them, so I say, bye-bye Tokyo, and I moved to DC. For me, DC was an amazing city to be part of, because I felt it welcomed me open arms. And when they began saying that, I spent my first year and a half in the States in New York. New York was the years of Jan-George von Gerichten and Daniel Boulud in his early days. I mean, New York is New York.
That's right, yeah.
But when I came, Washington was an amazing guy looking like a rock star called Jean-Louis Paladin with a thicker, it's like me speaking English with 3 spoons in my tongue. His accent was thicker than mine, but you didn't cut the passion he spoke. The most talented French chef you could find anywhere in the world was right here in Washington, D.C. And you had others. You had Yannick Cam on Le Pavillon, and you have Gerard Pangot. And then you had people like, oh my God, Roberto Donna and his Galileo. And then you had Mark Fustenberg with his amazing bread. And then you had Nora Puyon, that was the first organic restaurant and local in the history of America.
Yeah.
At the same time that Alice Waters was doing her own revolution. And then we had Bob Kincaid doing amazing with the Maryland and Virginia cooking. And then we had Jeff Buben bringing the best of the Southwest. And was the days of Red Sage with Mark Miller doing amazing Southwestern in one of the most beautiful restaurants ever to open.
I remember that.
And I keep going. And then we had a crazy guy that in the middle of nowhere opens the Inn a Little Washington that became probably the best inn in the history of the world. And all of a sudden was people bringing you mushrooms and people bringing you pow-pows. And then you had the wineries of Virginia and the cheeses of Maryland and the oysters of the Eastern Shore. And I'm like, and this is a boring city? That city, helped me become a little bit what I became. Everybody gave to you. Jean-Louis Paladin came to my restaurant the first weekend. And he sits, you see the same tortilla española we have there?
Yeah.
And he calls, I didn't know who Jean-Louis Paladin was. It's my first week. The restaurant opened. I didn't even have time to go out. And he began, are you from Spain? He knew more about me than myself. are you this young chef from Spain that work in Michelin-starred restaurants and you want to be the big success and eat the world and with your cooking? Jean-Louis Paladin was a little bit Spanish, like every great chef, they have some connection with Spain.
Yeah.
Eric Rippert in Le Bernardin's restaurant in America, yeah, he's from Andorra, Spain. What happened? They tell you they're French, they charge you more. Jean-Louis calls me, and that's why this city became so good to me.
Yeah.
And say, yeah, you are all these things, right? Yes, chef. Okay, so grab this tortilla española, throw it garbage, go to the kitchen, and make me one in the right way.
And you're running Jaleo at the time when he says this to you. You come out into the dining room. He says the greatest chef in the city says to throw this in the garbage.
But you know one thing, when people care for you, they will speak truth to you. So that's why I say I was very lucky.
He believed in you. He said, you can make something better than this. And you brought out a better one. And
yeah, I mean, all the chefs back then, I mean, they were, you know, but was a lot of friendship between all of us. I mean, Cass from Cass Sushi.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, one of the best sushi chefs you can find anywhere in the country. I mean, so many. So this city, for me, was city of cities. And to this day, this city has always been able to keep bringing new talent.
Yeah.
And new talent, and new talent. So I think Washington, D.C., for a 600,000 town we are, I think we're doing very well.
Yeah. When you came here, earlier today I took my son, I don't live here, but I used to live here, and I took my son down 7th Street. And it's remarkable to see China Chilcano, Oyamel, Jaleo, where I had my first date with my wife 25 years ago, my girlfriend, now wife. You know, you go up around the corner, there's Mini Bar, and there was Cafe Atlantico, there's Bazaar. When you were a young chef here who came to Jaleo, did you have those ambitions? Did you look at this city and say, I'm going to build something really big here?
Yes and no. Me, I follow the path of life. You know, it's like the Wizard of Oz. It's like the golden, you know, I see the path and I walk and I go. And I don't ask a lot of questions. Because I enjoy the ride in that sense. At least I used to be more like that.
Yeah.
Maybe now I think more about it.
But you were not strategic, you were just following your curiosity.
Yeah, when I came, listen, I was the head chef. I think I was fired twice in the first 2 years. Well, you know when they put you, and now you're going to be consulting chef in Café Atlántico. They're firing you from Jaleo. But I never left Jaleo, but it was like, yeah, now you're consulting, now you're a chef, now you're consulting. You're like, okay, what's going on here? I mean, we see. I mean, yeah. And then Jaleo was successful, no easy. I still remember the early year, a lot of empty nights. Downtown DC in 1993.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
The closest thing like looked like a normal restaurant was the insect clap. And I love the insect clap. I mean,
yeah.
You know, the most traditional dish was roasted crickets with warm powder. Like, great, give me, yeah, medium rare, please, my crickets. Liver on the side. So downtown was, wow, the Penn Quarter during the day, not bad, but at night.
Nobody went.
Then the Shakespeare Theater was there. And I told you my love for theater. Oh my God, I mean, to this day, my confusion in my brain is so deep because I remember with Michael Kahn, the director, they will be rehearsing 2, sometimes even 3 plays at the same time. Don't tell me why. And I will sneak by the back of the kitchen of Jaleo, and I will see the rehearsal of one, but then they had the rehearsal of another play. And that's why I have such a confusion in my brain, because I don't know what pieces of what belongs to what. But this was very amazing for me in the early days. But then, because the small dishes were doing well, Even everybody was complaining, why we don't get the big dish? Oh, I don't want to share. Don't share? It's when I come up with a 20-inch rule. You know, we will put the plate in the middle. If you don't want to share, bring the plate towards you. And then I became with crazy ideas and stories like, and do you know why forks and knives were invented? Because you get the fork, you get the knife, you put it in front of your plate, and you say, nobody's touching this. And we opened Saitinia, and then, but for me, it was more stories, it was learning. In the same way a painter paints a new piece of art every
another
time.
story, another restaurant.
For me, were stories and a way to learn. That's why all these concepts, for me, more than the business side, was the learning side. A new trip, research, spending a lot of time in Mexico to open Oyamel, which, by the way, yesterday we opened as the second Oyamel in New York. And for me, just restaurants became almost like a sickness in the sense of, I want to tell another story. Let's do another restaurant. I want to tell another story. Let's open a restaurant. It's like, really? But happy of taking that road.
We could spend hours just talking about you as a restaurateur, 40 restaurants as a chef, and there's a whole other dimension to your life that is even more profound, which is the work you've done creating World Central Kitchen. And it's quite remarkable because it literally started, you were in the Caribbean with Eric Ripert and Anthony Bourdain, who was a close friend of yours, and the earthquake in Haiti struck, and you just felt compelled to go there. You didn't have a plan, you didn't have an organization, you didn't have logistics, you weren't José Andrés, humanitarian, you weren't any of those things. You just wanted to go, you didn't know what you were gonna do, and you just went to Haiti.
Yeah.
And that was the beginning of this thing that has become so enormous.
Well, yeah, it's still small, I will say, and that's a good thing.
Yeah.
But when we need to become big, we can become bigger than
enormous
anybody.
in impact. What was it about? What was it inside of you that felt like this is something I have to do?
So making it quick, I mean, across the street from Jaleo on 7th and E, probably is a place you've never been, and I'm inviting you to go, because I want you to feel the same thing I felt. A nurse like my mom, a person that went up to the Capitol when the Capitol was almost under siege to feed the troops, a person that was working in the flying hospitals during the Civil War. If you never read about the flying hospitals, you should, because it's fascinating. A person that opened the missing soldiers office in DC, in Baltimore. A person that created American Red Cross. They found across the street from Jaleo the living quarters / office of Clara Barton herself.
And she wasn't powerful, she wasn't connected, she was a low-level clerk.
And I'm even amazed that Red Cross doesn't do a better job in telling the story of Clara Barton. Because obviously organizations are important, but at the end are the individuals. And I'm getting fascinated too by the many people working alongside Clara Barton later on. But that was an important part. I was like, man, look at that woman, what she was able to do. Knocking on the doors of generals and convincing people that they had to do this and that. Fascinating. But then I watched Katrina. People living the Low Nine. If you are from New Orleans, you know what I'm talking about. Forget about everything going on around New Orleans. Let's concentrate on the Superdome. 20,000 Americans for over a week forgotten, without food, water, with a lot of things happening to women inside that building. How is that possible? An arena is not a place you go to see the capitals to win the championships, or the Wizards one day will win a championship. With Italians, we will win it. An arena is not a sports or music venue. An arena is a gigantic restaurant that entertains with sports and music. I mean, go to a baseball game. Everybody's in the line for the hot dogs, all you can eat. So how is possible that we will not, when 10% of American workforce very much works in restaurants or in food, and we will not be able just to activate any food outlet to start feeding people? Should be not even something like we work hard. Should happen naturally. When I went to New Orleans in the last hurricane we were, I realized that the food warehouses that feed New Orleans were 0.7 miles away from the Superdome. If I get 20 of you, even if we have no cars because it's water up to the neck, we'll pick up boxes of jambalaya in the freezer, or hot dogs and buns. We'll come, we'll open, we'll get a generator if we have none. We'll open 2 or 3 of the food stalls, and 20,000 people will be eating within an hour. That's how we did it. That's how we did it in LA. And I can give you a lot of missions, the blueprint of the missions, because none are equal. In Bahamas with Dorian, World Central Kitchen, we did, I would say, even we don't have all the data all the time totally documented, but I will say we did over 50 medical evacuations. And we are not an organization do that.
You don't have helicopters.
But we had 6 helicopters, and we had 2 seaplanes, and we had an amphibious vehicle, and we had 1 boat with 2 helipads. We had what nobody else had. No UN, no USAID, not because they are not amazing. It's only like we're very quick. Why? Because if you have to feed people today, it's like a restaurant. I know what's going to happen if I don't bring you the food. You're going to bitch. And you're going to be right into Tom Simpson. I like, really? Jose, it is true that it took you an hour. Yes. I'm a Catholic boy. I'll ask for forgiveness on Sunday. But that's true. So what if you treat in emergencies every person like if they are your most important guest in your restaurant? And that's why maybe, yes, some people will say, you'll see it in documentaries, plenty of people talk about it, that Jose can be very intense. And if I'm intense, I will ask for forgiveness and I will say sorry. But in the urgency of now, the least we can do is to be next to the people that need us the most with food and water immediately. And this is very much the very simple idea behind World Central Kitchen. World Central Kitchen almost doesn't even need a headquarters. Obviously, you need for payrolls and payables and accounting, yeah. But right now, it's members that they've never been to Washington serving people when last night Kharkiv and Kiev were massively attacked by Russia. And one of our kitchens was heated yesterday, nothing happened, but in Kharkiv, because people are there next to the people, feeding people. They can be World Central Kitchen, but they can be anything else. We're very lucky that they want to work with the World Central Kitchen flag. But World Central Kitchen is simply an idea that flies away, that everybody can be World Central Kitchen. The only thing you need to do is stop thinking what you could do, but put your boots, show up, start cooking, and start taking care of the people. That's in essence what World Central Kitchen is.
I think after the hurricane in Puerto Rico, you fed 4 million people. In Ukraine, the first 10 months of that war, 185 million meals were delivered. It's amazing.
Well, in Ukraine, in the early weeks, in the early months, only 2 members, Nate Mook, who used to be the CEO, and myself. We did a lot of work in the border. We had so many Americans, many people from D.C., Maryland, that came volunteers. And we had a major kitchen in Shimish. But we had kitchens in every other country, including Spain and Germany. We were in Warsaw. But then we moved in, and before we knew, we had over 535 restaurants that we were able to support in multiple cities, from Lviv to, we were the first ones in Bucha. We were the first ones in Irpin. The horrors you saw after the Russians were pushed away, they were real. Kramatorsk, Kherson, on the liberation of Kherson. To this day, very much, we don't have the same size, because also World Central Kitchen is emergency and knows when to start moving away. But in the places still we believe is emergency-like, we are still there. So we are in Ukraine, we are in Gaza, we were in Israel. We've done almost 4 million meals in Israel. People ask me, why did you go to Israel? Because the people of Israel needed our help. I had people that asked me, why are you in Gaza? Because the people of Gaza needs our help. And this is a very simple idea to understand.
Ukraine was the first time that you went to a man-made disaster. Previously, World Central Kitchen was going to natural disasters. You lost 10 people in Gaza, I believe 8 people in Ukraine, 18 World Central Kitchen workers. You have spoke so movingly about them. You have acknowledged that at times you have crises of confidence where you ask yourself, why do I do this? How do you answer that question to yourself?
Well, obviously, the first time it hit me was in Ukraine, way before than what happened in Gaza. And in a way, I don't think even for members of the organization, nothing clicked, because they were Ukrainians that in the free time, they were volunteering with World Central Kitchen. And some of the kitchens, they were working near the front lines, were hit, and that's when they perished. And that's the moment. I was there in Ukraine at the time. I spent, 150, 160 days in the first year and a half in Ukraine. And it's the moment I was like to the degree that I said I wanted to pull World Central Kitchen out. At least as a board member, I could be recommending come with me. But then with a meeting of the Ukrainians there, they said, but Jose, how are you going to be living in Ukraine now? Who's going to do the work you are doing? So many cities, so many towns that people are eating because World Central Kitchen is there. And they told me, Jose, imagine they didn't wear the World Central Kitchen shirt. Imagine World Central Kitchen doesn't exist. Those people that perish with World Central Kitchen or with Central Kitchen, they will be doing exactly the same, trying to feed their fellow citizens. So this is very simple. You want to be or you don't want to be? You want to look to the other side or you want to try to do the best you can? And obviously the decision then was we need to always try. Because if we are not there, those people are going to go through the same suffering and probably losses as if we are there. So this is the hard decision. Are we there or are we not there? My daughter one day told me, Inez, my second daughter, she told me, Daddy, we are not going to change the world without taking some risk. And I have a feeling I keep holding myself to that phrase from a young girl that has been in Haiti since she was 15, she's been in Ukraine, a young girl that has been in Chad, in the border with Sudan, and a young girl that has been in Yemen. And when she told me how we're going to change the world without taking some risk, she's right. Obviously, what happened in Gaza is something I make myself responsible. I make myself responsible because I created World Central Kitchen. But I want to believe that phrase, Somi was a very dear friend. It's a person I spent a lot of time in different missions. When I wake up knowing that she lost her life delivering food for me, obviously that was a moment I will never forget. Forever I will maybe regret that we were there, but in a way I have a feeling like if she's listening to what I'm saying right now, if we pull out of Gaza today, like if I did pull out of Ukraine, actually those people that sacrifice their lives to try to bring hope to people through food and water, it's almost like we will be disappointing them. The fight must go on. The voiceless need to be supported. People cannot walk on this earth alone. If we can do something to mitigate the pain that people are going at home and abroad, I do believe I will always be there. I hope that beyond me, that World Central Kitchen will always be there.
I want to read something that somebody in the audience wrote, and this person said, a few short months ago, after my sister donated to World Central Kitchen as a gesture of support and outrage over the tragic loss of lives of the World Central Kitchen volunteers, she found herself standing in line to be fed by you days after her home burned down in the California wildfires. And your group's tremendous outreach and commitment to help all humans is unparalleled. Thank you for your courage and your compassion. That was just a comment somebody wanted me to read to you, Jose. In our remaining moments, I want to turn a corner because last night I asked ChatGPT to name the most famous Spaniard in the world. And do you know what it said?
Rafael Nadal.
He was on that list, but you came in number one. He was number two. And Carlos Alcaraz was three.
Alcaraz.
You have managed to become, just by force of nature and just by what you do, a globally famous person, but at the same time so approachable.
My wife is rolling her eyes.
So right, that's what I mean. So well known, but also so approachable, and you love. I first met you 10 years ago, and I've been able to spend some time with you. You love being around people. You love it, and I wonder if that is true.
If they're not taking selfies, yes.
Okay. Do you find that you need to decompress? You need to just need to be in a room by yourself sometimes?
Well, my wife is my decompression. Yeah. My daughters too, even. I think I turn them crazy. Lately I've been saying I would love to be in a cave. Like caveman, like in a cave. But then, if I'm one day in the cave, then it's like. But yeah, I'm learning. I like to be underwater. Everything is so peaceful underwater.
Yeah.
And by the way, the oyster population has come back. It's at its biggest has ever been in the Chesapeake Bay.
Yeah.
Let's hope that the programs that make that happen will not be cut. What was the question?
So you need time. You need time to yourself. You do need that time.
We all do. Obviously, I've been going through, in a very selfish way now, if I can. Yeah, we've been talking about me for an hour. Yeah. But we all need that, right?
Yeah.
I play golf. Even I am more like a mushroom hunter than a golf player. I think I should write the mushroom golf club. I understood the meaning of the hat, because the hat is not really to cover you from the sun, but really to pick up the morels in West Virginia when you play golf there. I'm an expert on that. I'm an expert. My ball is always on the forest somewhere. I don't understand the meaning of the fairway. It's too unfair. But yeah, I need to decompress. And I'm tweeting less these days.
But
I'm Xing now.
Yeah.
I don't know, when I say X, it looks like you are in a porn movie or something. It looks very, I don't think the name is so great for some reason. But anyway, that's conversation for another day. But yeah.
But I mean, a lot of people, and I know you get asked this, right? You have 40 restaurants. You founded Real Central Kitchen. You seem to be everywhere and anywhere all at once. You have a new show with Martha Stewart about to launch. A new TV show on NBC.
With my accent, I got an NBC primetime show.
I mean,
After The Voice, starting Monday, a cooking competition. It's only in America this happened.
but I mean, you do all these things. You've got books, and you make time to volunteer, and you seem to be available to a lot of people. And I know you get asked this question, but it's still worth asking. How do you do it all? How do you balance all of these things?
Well,
how do you make it work?
There's a lot of people here in the audience that I do what I do thanks to them. And I'm very lucky that I have all of them around me. We are only as good as the people we have around us. Well, for me it's easy. If somebody tells me, hey, this is wrong, don't blame on me, it's your fault. So that speech works.
Yeah.
It's like the guest that comes to your restaurant, asks for 7 changes to the menu, to the dish, and then complains that they didn't like the dish. I'm like, no kidding. I mean, yeah, it's people that sabotage you all the time, I know it's none of you, it's the other people. But yeah, I like to do things. I like to be learning. We've been working the last 1-2 years with this kitchen that will be the first kitchen that astronauts will be able to cook in the space station. Or in Mars and on the moon. And I'm going to tell you, it's going to be beautiful. Because it's a centrifuge. And you have to do G speeds. So the food will not float. And the food will be against the walls of something looks like a kitchen. But that means that your brownies are going to be like circles. And your macaroni and cheese are going to be like circles. You'll be able to go and walk away and put your brownie in one side and your macaroni and cheese in the other arm. And you'll be walking and you're hungry? The future looks unbelievably interesting and promising. So I like to do things.
Yeah.
And now we are living fascinating times. When you think everything is in order, now we need to deal with the tariffs. And you know that the American alcohol sales, as a Spaniard, my dream has been bringing the best of Spain to America and bring the best of America to the world. America has done the best with Kentucky bourbon in the history.
Yeah.
Best sales ever, creating a lot of jobs in rural America, sending the pride of American products and American craftsmen overseas. And all that success over the last 30 years, we are on the edge of losing it overnight. Yep. So now, it's going to be very interesting for years. Obviously, I was fired on the first day of President Trump administration on a tweet. I was kind of sad, but I forgot that I resigned a few days before. But I only was sad for a reason.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's a matter what, right? But we are all going through this process in life that seems like people want to make us believe that who doesn't think like you is your enemy. Who doesn't look like you, maybe is a bad person. Who doesn't smell like you, we're people from another country. The people don't have your same religion. They're strange people. They have Jesus somewhere here in the altar. Or what these guys do during Passover? What? What's happening in the mosque? And it's all this moment of trying to make people that are not like us. And then you have people that are making you feel scared of the world we live in. And listen, things are not perfect. I know about that. And I've been in the worst moments of humanity where in the worst moments of humanity, the best of humanity shows up. I had Israeli chefs that lost family members on October 7th that they wanted to volunteer if they could because they had more than one passport to go Gaza, feed people. I had Palestinian women saying, if I could, I will go to help feed the Israelis in the kibbutz. You don't hear those stories, but that's the real story of the world we live in. Is more people of goodness than people of hate. So therefore, don't lose your north. Love everyone and each other. You know, it's the only way forward. I don't agree with what Elon Musk has done and in the way he has done it. But eventually I may buy a Tesla, why not? It's amazing what he's been able to achieve. But we need to be normalizing that disagreeing with each other, if we do it respectfully, giving dignity, not calling names to people, especially not to heroes of war and senators and generals and people of goodness. So dignity is the only thing we have. And respect given and respect earned is the only thing we have as humans. Yeah. Let's never forget that. And you know what thing, Washington? Things will be okay.
Yeah. José Andrés.
Hey, big round of applause here to Guy Russ. Thank you. All right.